The Hunsons were delighted. Amy, with her warm smile, seemed like the answer to their prayers. She had glowing references praising her patience and love for children. Mr. Hunson was instantly charmed by her polite demeanor. Mrs. Hunson felt a strange sense of ease around Amy. Little Emily took an immediate liking to Amy. She loved the stories Amy told. Amy even helped Emily with her homework. Amy seamlessly integrated herself into the Hunson family routine. She cooked, cleaned, and played with Emily. Mr. Hunson found solace in Amy's presence. Mrs. Hunson remained oblivious to the subtle shifts in her household. Little did she know, a sinister plan was brewing beneath the surface. As the weeks passed, a darkness began to seep through Amy's cheerful facade. Emily noticed subtle changes, like Amy's annoyance when interrupted. One evening, Emily saw Amy whispering urgently on the phone. Emily overheard, "It will be all mine soon." Amy's eyes met Emily's in the mirror, sending chills down her spine. Emily started having vivid nightmares. She dreamt of a woman with Amy's face chasing her through a dark forest. The more time passed, the more convinced Emily became that something was terribly wrong. Amy's behavior grew increasingly unsettling. She would stare at Mr. Hunson with an intensity that made Emily uncomfortable. Her smile seemed forced, her eyes holding a secret that sent shivers down Emily's spine. One afternoon, while playing hide-and-seek, Emily stumbled upon a box hidden under Amy's bed. Curiosity got the better of her, and she peeked inside. Her blood ran cold. The box contained newspaper clippings, all reporting the same horrifying story. Families found murdered in their homes, the only suspect, the seemingly innocent babysitter, Betsy Broughton. A photograph was stapled to one of the clippings. It was Amy, but her eyes were different, colder, crueler. Panic seized Emily. She knew with a child's terrifying certainty that Amy was dangerous. She had to warn her parents. With trembling hands, she folded the note and slipped it into her mother's purse, praying that she would find it. Emily's attempt to warn her parents did not go unnoticed. That night, as Emily lay in bed pretending to be asleep, Amy entered her room. Gone was the sweet, gentle facade. Amy's face was illuminated by the faint moonlight, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. "You shouldn't have done that, Emily," Amy hissed, her breath hot on Emily's cheek. "You should know better than to pry into things that don't concern you." She picked up Emily's favorite dollhouse, the one her father had spent weeks building for her, and held it up, a menacing smile playing on her lips. "Accidents happen, you know," she whispered, her voice laced with unspoken threats. Amy placed the dollhouse back on the nightstand, her gaze never leaving Emily's face. "Remember, Emily," she whispered, her voice cold and sharp like a shard of ice. "Secrets are best kept buried." That night, Emily lay awake, staring into the darkness. The image of Amy's twisted smile seared into her mind. She knew she couldn't rely on anyone but herself. Mrs. Hunson's world began to crumble one seemingly ordinary afternoon. She was looking for her reading glasses, rummaging through her purse, when her fingers brushed against a folded piece of paper. Unfolding it, she saw a child's handwriting. The words scrawled in hurried, uneven letters. "Amy is dangerous, don't trust her, look under her bed." A cold dread washed over her. Emily had never been prone to such dramatic pronouncements. Her mind raced. Could this be true? Was Amy not who she seemed? She dismissed the housekeeper, her heart pounding in her chest. She had to know the truth. With trembling hands she made her way to the guest room where Amy stayed. Hesitantly she approached the bed and peered beneath it. A wave of nausea swept over her as she saw the shoebox hidden in the shadows. Pulling it out, she opened it and stared in horror at the contents. The truth hit Mrs. Hunson like a physical blow. The confrontation, when it came, was as chilling as a winter wind. Mrs. Hunson, armed with the horrifying truth, stormed into the living room, where Amy sat reading to Emily. The book, a collection of fairy tales, trembled in Amy's hands, her composure momentarily shaken by Mrs. Hunson's uncharacteristic fury. "Get out!" Mrs. Hunson spat, her voice trembling with rage and fear. "Get out of my house, you monster!" Emily, sensing the shift in atmosphere, looked from her mother to Amy, her eyes wide with apprehension. The mask of innocence fell away from Amy's face, replaced by a look of pure venom. "You should have stayed out of this," she hissed, her voice cold and menacing. "You ruined everything!" She flung the book aside, the pages fluttering to the ground like fallen leaves. Before Mrs. Hunson could react, Amy lunged, her attack swift and brutal. The room became a whirlwind of motion as Mrs. Hunson, fueled by adrenaline and maternal instinct, fought back with a ferocity she never knew she possessed. The struggle was brutal, a dance of desperation and fury. Furniture toppled, lamps shattered, the once peaceful living room transformed into a battleground. Emily, cowering in the corner, watched in terror as the two women she thought she knew ripped and clawed at each other, their screams echoing through the house. During the struggle, Amy's wig came loose, revealing a mess of choppy, uneven hair beneath. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing the monster lurking beneath. "You can't hide who you are, Betsy!" Mrs. Hunson screamed, her voice hoarse with exertion. "Betsy?" Emily whispered, her voice barely audible above the chaos. The name, whispered in fear by her mother, triggered a memory in Emily's mind. Amy, the perfect babysitter, was gone, replaced by the monstrous specter of Betsy Broughton. "This isn't over, not by a long shot," Betsy snarled, spitting blood and fury. The police arrived to find a scene of utter chaos. Betsy vanished into the night, leaving behind destruction and terror. The Hunsons, scarred and shattered, tried to rebuild their lives. The nightmare left an indelible mark, a chilling reminder of hidden monsters. Emily found solace in her parents' embrace, but the fear lingered. The world now seemed fraught with danger, every stranger a threat. The memory of Betsy Broughton continued to haunt the Hunsons. They knew she was still out there, lurking in the shadows. The nightmare had only just begun. To be continued. Thanks for tuning in for 7-Minute Mayhem, bringing you horror, malice and mayhem, in 7 minutes or less, from Father Lokk's Horror House and the 7-Minute Mayhem horror series. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks again for watching. Much love always.